So thanks everyone for joining us. I'm really happy that you came back for the second session after having done the first one where we were introducing the concept of an agent or a GPT, and kind of showing some use cases of how you interact with them, and the sort of interactions that you have in general with these GPTs. Whereas now what we want to do is kind of take it a step further and examine the way that we created them a bit closer. So Ben is going to take you through an example of how, start to finish, we've come up with the final prompt that basically guides the GPT to interact with us in a certain way, with a specific outcome in mind, but then also guides it through following a specific style and a specific tone, as well as following a format that's been predefined. And there's a few steps that we kind of go through to create these. And the idea today is that, again, it's just going through an example, and we want you to look through this through the lens of how can I basically take these same principles and apply these same techniques to my own use cases. And if you do have any questions about the use case that we're demonstrating, or if you have ideas based on what you see about how you can implement it on your own use cases, then feel free to ask as well, and we'd be happy to help. So I'm just going to pass the mic over to Ben, and he's going to take it from here.
Cool. Thanks, Rob. So yeah, like Rob said, we're going to be creating a custom GPT, and today we're going to be creating it for something called a knowledge organizer. And this is a fairly new concept in education, but it's become really popular since about 2015. So I'll show you an example of one. Can everyone see my screen? Can see that? So essentially, what a knowledge organizer is a place where you keep all of the required knowledge for a student to have after they've finished a specific unit of work, and the knowledge that they should have going into studying that. So as you can see in this one, for example, this is aimed at Key Stage 2 students. So it begins by saying what's the prior knowledge they have, and says what they should know from earlier in the school. And the purpose of this is to be able to share with teachers, to be able to allow them to plan their lessons and figure out exactly what they need to teach. For students to use as a revision support, so they know exactly what they need to learn. They can go and practice these topics, and there's no ambiguity about what they should or shouldn't know. And then also using it to communicate with parents, like, what are we teaching your kids? Like, what is the things that they need to know? So it's a really useful tool for everyone involved in the educational process. And yeah, has become very popular recently, in the last 10 years or so. And a lot of schools are currently building these for every school stage and for every topic. So we've had a couple of schools that have asked us to develop a tool like this, and we see it as a really good example to show developing a custom GPT or AI assistant, because it goes across all the different features that we want to show. So I'll jump straight into how we're going to create this. And these knowledge organizers are usually created by teachers from the national curriculum. So one of the things we're going to need to create this GPT is the national curriculum to give that context to the GPT. So I'll show you first how we can just quickly find a document that we know exists on the internet, but would otherwise be a little bit annoying to find using Google. So if I say, give me a link to the national curriculum for primary schools in the UK. So the reason I wanted to show this is because when I was looking for the national curriculum the first time, I actually went Give me a link, please. I went onto the government website to find it, and it was quite hard to navigate to it. But then I asked ChatGPT, and it gave me it straight away. So it is. It's not actually linking it.
It is in the sources though, Ben, if you just open up the sources.
Yeah. So yeah, it used to give you a clickable link, but now it gives these sources, and there's 8 different sources. So you have to ask for a clickable link now, whereas this wasn't the case about 6 months ago. But to speed things up, make sure you ask for something that's clickable. Then it takes you straight to the thing that you need, and you can download it there. So I already actually have it open here. And as you can see in the national curriculum, it's 200 pages long, and it's going to take me a long time to go through this. But let's just look at one specific topic. So if we look at geography, so that's on page 184. You can see it goes through kind of a overview of the study, like what the aims are, and then the specific content that should be taught to each student in Key Stage 1 and in Key Stage 2. So we're going to be creating knowledge organizers for Key Stage 2. And so it's going to need the information from Key Stage 1, so they know what they should already know and they should retest. And then also the information from Key Stage 2. So I can attach this whole document to a custom GPT. So if I come to GPTs and click create, this is like we showed in the first webinar where you come to create one. We can give it, let's give it a name first. So knowledge organizers, let's say Key Stage 2. And let's just get it to generate a photo rather than upload one, and give it a description. So you generate knowledge organizers based on the national curriculum. And then we can, so I'll skip the instructions for now, we'll get into that in a moment, but for now I just want to show you attaching the file of the national curriculum. So here we have the national curriculum file. I upload it.
We couldn't see the other window, but yeah, it just opens up your Finder, so your files, and you can just choose a file from there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just this national curriculum file I have already in my files on my computer. So you can download it and then click this upload button, go find it in your files and select it, and it will upload it to this knowledge section. So now let's test out whether that's there or not. So let's say list all the subjects in the curriculum. And you can see it says searching its knowledge, and then it will go through and tell us exactly which subjects are in there. So that's great, that's working. We know that it can access the document, and that's going to be really useful for creating our knowledge organizers. So now we're going to get into the instructions and what we're going to share with you in the resources this time. So on the same website where we shared the GPTs in the last webinar, now we've added this new section called the GPT starting structure, and it basically gives you a breakdown of all the sections that you should kind of start with in your GPT. And we've added this bit so you can copy paste it, and it's a great starting point for creating a GPT. So going through those sections again, you have your role, which is where you tell it exactly what its purpose is and what it should be doing. The context, which is anything such as templates or anything that guides it to give a better output. So in this one, we're going to use a writing style guide we're going to create, and also a template that we're going to create from the knowledge organizer example that we already have. Then the next part is the step-by-step instructions. This is where you define kind of the behavior and you get it to follow the flow step by step. And you can get it to check in with you. And this is where you tell it how to act. And then the notes, this section is for anything that you want to change about its behavior or the way it's working. Anything that doesn't fit into the other sections, you can add in the notes. And we'll cover all of these sections in this demonstration. So if I copy the template and I can just copy it into here, then that means I know which, like I'm not going to miss out any of these sections because I have to basically just fill in the blank spaces. So let's start with your role. And it's always best when you're creating one of these things to have two windows open. So you want your regular ChatGPT open to run kind of tasks for you. And then you want your creation tab to also be open, which is where you're going to add all of the things and also test how it's behaving. So
just a note here, Ben, as we kind of demonstrated in the first session, we say now, because we're demonstrating on ChatGPT, that it's good to have one ChatGPT normal chat window open and a ChatGPT window with the GPT creation form. But that really applies whether you're using Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini as well. The forms are essentially the same, but it also applies that you should have your agent or your gem creation form open, and then also have a normal chat window open, so you can always kind of chat to both and use one to feed into the other.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason for that is because we want ChatGPT to help us write this prompt. And this screen where we test it out isn't for generating things to help us to write that prompt. It's only for testing the prompt. So we want a separate ChatGPT window where we're going to build up the resources that we're going to put into our instruction. So the first part is the role. And the way I often do this, rather than just typing out exactly what the role is myself, I give it a bit of context about what I want and then ask it to write that role for me. So we're going to be creating knowledge organizers. And I already have an example knowledge organizer. So let's use that to our advantage and attach it into this regular chat and say, I need you to define a role that I can give to a custom GPT to tell it what it needs to do concisely. It's going to be generating knowledge organizers like the one attached. And then what I like to do for creating the role is say start the paragraph. I'm just saying the paragraph because I don't want it to be too long. Often it can create kind of essay things, but I don't want that. I want it to be concise. So I say start the paragraph with, and then I say your role is. This is a sentence that we found is really good for this section to be consistent, and it creates good results. And the style of writing like this, where you tell the AI what its role is usually pretty effective. So what have we got? We've got your role is to generate high quality curriculum aligned knowledge organizers for primary and secondary education. Each organizer should be outline the key concepts. The format should be concise and engaging. Okay, cool. So let's just copy paste this into the your role section. And in real life, you could be a lot more critical about this and kind of go through it and think, okay, is this exactly how I want it to work?
And for example, in this case, it said primary and secondary school, whereas this one specifically you want to use for just primary. So there are things like that you shouldn't just blindly use whatever comes out. Really sort of critically look at it and then make sure that it really fits what you're looking for as an output.
Well spotted, Rob. I didn't notice that, but yeah, I'm rushing right now just to get through the demonstration. But you should pay a lot more attention to what you're writing. So in the context section, what are we gonna want to put there? We want it to recreate our knowledge organizers in the same style and have the same sections as our example, because so this is for the teacher that we created this tool for originally. He had already created some of these, but he had like, I don't know, 50 left to do, which is taking him a huge amount of time. So we could use his example and get it to create a structure that it can then replicate the same way that he's doing it. So let's create that structure. And to do that, we come into our new, our separate ChatGPT chat again. If I start a new chat, so it's best always to start a new chat because we don't want it getting confused with what we've previously talked about. And we also want to make sure that it revisits the file that we upload. So if I attach the example again, and then I say, okay, I'll use the dictation this time, since it'll be faster than watching me type. So please look at the knowledge organizer I've attached and give me a template structure so that if I give this template structure to a custom GPT, it will be able to create knowledge organizers in the exact same structure, again, with the same sections. So, yeah. Okay, so it's added a bit of Welsh at the start there, which seems to be a bit of a problem on mine. So yeah, please add the knowledge organizer I've attached, so that I give us template structure to custom GPT, be able to create knowledge organizers in the exact same structure, again with the same sections. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it's getting all of the key sections of the structure. So sticky knowledge, key questions, activate. So activate, key questions, sticky knowledge, and then vocabulary. And that was all the sections. Perfect. So let's ask it to give us this in a markdown code block that we can copy. And the reason we do that is because it creates it in a kind of code style that ChatGPT can understand in a much clearer way than if we just use regular text. So let's say, please give me the structure as a copyable markdown code block. Okay, so it gives us the exact same thing, but it's much clearer to the AI what is a heading, what's a subheading, and then what the bullet points are, etc. So that's why we use this markdown. And it also allows us to just click this copy button, and then we can bring it back to the prompt that we're writing, and we can copy it in here. But first, we need to give this section of context a name. So let's call it the template structure. And then we give it triple quotes. Again, we covered this in the first one. The reason we use triple quotes is because we want to clearly show the start and end of where the structure is, so there's no confusion. And triple quotes instead of single quotes, because there might be some quotation marks in here, and we don't want it getting confused with those. So that's the template structure created. So we have a role. We have the first piece of context that's going to fit it to that structure. And the next thing we need to do is create step-by-step instructions. So there are going to be kind of 3 key sections to this GPT. Like, we're going to be wanting to create knowledge organizers for each topic. So the first step is going to be asking us which topic we want to create this for. So it's easiest for us if the GPT gives us an option of topics to choose from. So let's start with step 1 and say, ask the user which key stage 2 topic they'd like to create an organizer for. And let's be a bit more specific and say, list out all the topics that are in the national curriculum. So let's test that out. Let's see if it follows that so far. So let's say start. And this is like I said, where you can test out. So when we say start, you can see it said searching knowledge. That means it's going to look in its at the national curriculum, and then it's giving a list of the different topics. So it's going really in depth and saying kind of the subtopics in each one, which we don't want. So let's come back here and edit that instruction to be just for the top level, all of the top level topics that are in the national curriculum. Let's see now. We say start again. So yeah, now it's just giving us the high level subjects and not the subtopics of each one, which is exactly what we wanted. So let's go back here and let's add a note, because it's going to be a lot easier if we just, to respond to this, we can make a choice by just saying a number rather than typing out English, for example. It's a small time saved, but time saved nonetheless. So let's go into notes, and the first note we can give is when listing topics, ensure they are numbered. Okay, so let's close that. And as you can see, each time I change something in the instructions, all of the conversation that I'm having in the test side completely disappears. That's because you're only testing the instruction, and if the instruction changes, then the last test is now obviously invalid and not useful anymore. So that's another reason to make sure you're using a separate chat when creating the structure and stuff, because you don't want it to just disappear if you're using this chat. So if I say start again, we can see, hopefully, yeah, so now it's numbered, and we could just say 7 geography, and then it will go on to the next step, which we haven't defined yet. So this behavior that it's going on to now is kind of undefined, but it's actually doing what we want it to do. So we're going to create knowledge organizers for each of these individual sections, but if we keep using it again and again, we'll find that sometimes it does this, which is what we want, and sometimes it does other things, because AIs are told to act slightly differently each time to seem more human, which is kind of annoying in this case, but we can resolve that annoyance by being really clear in our instructions and telling it what steps to take next. So let's write instruction 2. Once the topic is chosen, list the subtopics to choose from. List the subtopics by checking the national curriculum. So something I've done here is just say national curriculum, but I should, to be really clear, say in file and then in the file and then give it a name, and we should use the exact name that we've attached. So I'm just going to grab it from okay, yeah, I'm just going to copy the name from my files and folders because it's going to be easier than typing it out. So being really specific with the file name like this is a best practice to make sure it actually goes and checks that file each time you want it to. So we're going to get it to list out the subtopics and ask which one the knowledge organizer should be for. Okay, so let's test that stage out. So let's say start. So we have our topics. Let's do 7. So then it gives us these different topics that we can choose from, and those are the ones in the national curriculum. So I chose geography and saying locational knowledge, place knowledge, human geographical skills, which is exactly what we wanted. So the last section is going to be to create the knowledge organizer in the same structure. Oh, I'm writing in the wrong place. Oops. Create a knowledge organizer in the same structure as the, and then I'm going to put in quotes the name of the context we gave as the template structure provided above. Okay, and for this bit, I'd like a bit of a summary about each topic. So list the subtopics to choose from with a summary. Okay, so I'll close that and let's say start again. So let's choose geography again, stick with that. So then it gives us our options for the subtopics. Let's just choose 3. And then it starts giving us the knowledge organizer. So this feature it's using now is called Canvas. I'll say answer in chat instead, because in this test mode, it's not, it's a little bit buggy and it doesn't show you what it's generating. But we can also say create, share it with only me, and then we can test it out to see what it actually looks like. Okay, so we have the GPT here. So let's say start. So 7 geography. Let's choose number 3. Okay, so now we can actually see it writing out all those different sections that we told it to create. And this is where it really comes to kind of your opinion and what you want as the final product. Like once you're kind of getting out like a usable kind of thing that actually does what you say, then it's much more kind of opinion based. And what we want to show now is how you can guide kind of the writing style and the information in here to be in your own style. So I'm going to do that by creating a writing style guide from the existing knowledge organizer. So let's add it back. So there's the knowledge organizer. And then I'm going to use a different dictation mode. Create a writing style guide from this knowledge organizer that just focuses on the way that the text is written, and give that as a style guide that an AI would be able to understand to replicate the same style of writing. So I did that just using my MacBook's dictation mode rather than the other one, because sometimes it can. My ChatGPT has a bit of a problem where it sometimes thinks I'm speaking in Welsh, which is a ChatGPT only problem. On any of the other tools, this doesn't happen, but it's something they've acknowledged, and they don't quite understand why it happens sometimes. Okay, so again, I'm just going to copy paste this style guide into the GPT, but you should be a lot more discerning and kind of look through this and figure out if it's exactly what you want. Give this to me as a copyable markdown block. Okay, so I'll wait for that to generate. So once you've created it, to get back to that editing page, so if you create one and use it, it'll appear in the sidebar here. And you can hit this drop down and come back to Edit GPT. Obviously, for each of the different tools, it's a different button. Meaning, so on Microsoft Copilot, it's going to be a Edit Agent button, for example. So let's get this ready and say Writing Style Guide, and give it the triple quotes, and then that's ready for us to copy in our style guide. And then in number 3, we're going to want to say, make sure that the text follows the writing. Copy this so it's definitely exactly the same. Okay, cool. And then I think so. In the other tab, our style guide is done being written, so we can copy that. And that's something great about ChatGPT is you get it to do a task in the background while you work on something else, which is really one of the great things about AI. So now that's in there. We're pretty close to being done. So if I click update, that will put it out there to the world, and I'll be able to reuse it. So if I refresh here, go to my knowledge organizers, KS2, and then I can test it out as I start. Let's choose geography again. So as you can kind of see, like this process takes a bit of time to create the GPT, but the value comes later and the time saving comes later when I have to create 50 of these knowledge organizers. And instead of going through manually with the national curriculum and writing them up, I can get them done a lot faster using this GPT. So let's do it for 3 again. You can see it's opened here in Canvas. And one of the great things about Canvas is I can actually download this as a PDF, which is really useful. By clicking this button in the top right here. So if I come back to GPT, so let's say if we went through here and there was something about the way it's writing that I didn't like. Because I've added the writing style guide in here, if there's something about the writing I don't like, I now have the control to be able to change the style by editing this piece of context I've given about sentence structure and tone and voice and everything like that. So yeah, that's kind of all we wanted to show is kind of the process of how we do that, how we evaluate the output, and then we make changes, and we go through that process until we have something we like. In real life, this takes a bit longer because obviously you're going to pay much closer attention to detail. I'll